وبعد. The topic of the Day of Judgment is something people are polarized about. Some people, they like talking about the Day of Judgment all the time, and some people, they're too scared to talk about it. From an Islamic perspective, there's a balance that we need to strike when we talk about Yawmul Qiyamah, Asharatus Sa'a, the signs of the Day of Judgment. On the one hand, for some people, they go so deep into conspiracy theories, the dark web, weird theories about this is that, metaphorical reading, and they're just watching hours and hours and hours of YouTube videos to the point that they become paranoid. That's one extreme. The other extreme are people who say, the last day, this is all a fairy tale. There's nothing true to it. You're just going to die, and inshallah you're going to meet Allah, and that's it. In Islam, there's a very beautiful balance. And what is that? We study the signs of the Day of Judgment to remind us of our own temporal and very short-lived existence, and so that we can prepare, but it should not paralyze us. Why do I say this? Because sometimes you'll speak to someone and they'll say, you know, subhanAllah, I watched this video and it's telling us that there's only a few months left and this is going to happen and this theory and that theory, the world is going to end in 2012 and no, it's going to end in 2015 and there's this philosopher or this person who's predicting the future or there's this sheikh who's... All of these conversations, the problem with getting into them so much is if that conversation is not making me a better person, then I'm really wasting my time. For 1, 2, 3 hours, this person is saying, okay, there's this hadith, and this applies to Russia, and applies to this country, and it applies to that country, and this person died, and this dream, and all of these talks and conversations, if all that it's doing to me is making me more depressed, more anxious, less practice, and in fact, I'm not productive in my life, then these signs are not helpful. When we look at Asharatu Sa'a, the word that's used in the Hadith and the Quran is Asharatu Sa'a. Sharat is like something that you see, it's letting you know. For instance, I'm driving and I'm going to Austin and it will tell you Austin in 45 miles. Then you go by, it'll tell you Austin in 15 miles. These are Asharat, alamat, signs. Now imagine a person, he sees that sign and he stops to the side and he starts taking a picture of the sign. And he takes a selfie with the sign. And he just goes and he sleeps right under the sign. He says, MashaAllah, what a beautiful sign. You've lost the purpose. The purpose of the sign is for you to know you have 45 miles left. You better hurry up. Look at your gas tank. Look at what time you have to be there. Do something about it. Not that I get comfortable under the sign and I spend my day like that. So, Asharatu Sa'a, the signs of the Day of Judgment, are important, but a trend is emerging in our communities where we find every video, every speaker, whenever somebody talks about this weird topic, we get into conspiracy theories and things that aren't even established in the Sharia. We have to be very careful about this. So, in the Sharia, when we talk about the signs of the Day of Judgment, there are many signs. There are the small signs, and then there are the major signs. For our purposes, when we read the signs, we read them so that we learn what we should avoid. Not that we sit down and complain about the circumstances. And that's the hadith that we're going to talk about today. I just want to briefly touch on this. So for instance, there's a hadith that says, Inna bayna yaday as-sa'a, right before the Day of Judgment, لَأَيَّامًا يَنْزِلُ فِيهَا الْجَهْلِ وَيُرْفَعُ فِيهَا الْعِلْمِ. What's going to happen is, knowledge is going to be taken away and ignorance is going to be spread. Now, there are two ways that I can approach this hadith. The hadith is saying what? Ignorance is going to be rampant and knowledge is going to be spreading everywhere. Ignorance is going to be rampant and knowledge is going to be taken away. What most people do is when they read this, they'll go to another person and say, yeah, you know, nowadays, this person is ignorant. This person has no knowledge. Nowadays, everybody who's talking, look at this person, he has no credentials, this person. And all they're doing is complaining and complaining instead of looking in the mirror and saying, okay, how much knowledge do I have? The biggest way we can benefit from the hadith is, instead of trying and applying it to other people, let me look in the mirror and say, okay, if a sign of the Day of Judgment is ignorance is going to become prevalent, how ignorant am I? If knowledge is going to be taken away, do I have any knowledge in my life? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves. Given the social media craze today, given platforms of videos and WhatsApp and YouTube and Instagram, it's so easy for two things to happen. Number one, I will get caught in this weird web. I see one video, oh, then the next one is recommended, then another one, and I go down this spiral. 3 hours later, I'm going to ask myself that, oh, mashallah, I feel good about myself. I listened to lectures. What lectures did you listen to? That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like there was something good, something nice. 3 hours. In the 3 hours, you could have done something productive, but there's this. What shaitan does sometimes is you call it the facade of knowledge, the facade of information, where you do nothing, but by the end of it, you pat yourself on the back and say, mashallah, bravo, I did a lot of good work. What did you do? For 4 hours, I was watching this debate. I was watching this refutation. I was watching this lecture. I was watching this conspiracy theory. All of that to what end? I watch it so much, I forget to pray my salah. I watch it so much, I don't change my life. So that's the first thing that happens, where you get caught in a web. The online world today is this really weird web. And subhanAllah, if you ever study a web and how a spider works, subhanAllah, you'll see like a mosquito, a fly, first it gets stuck. Then the spider slowly comes and crawls to the creature and then wraps it up even more in further web. Continues to wrap it up, and then it consumes it to the point that it can't move anymore. Because if it tries to strike at it when it's stuck at the first time, one little movement and the fly can just get away. What it does is, spiders are really intelligent. They'll wrap up their prey in even more web until they can't move anymore. Sometimes you'll go down these rabbit holes, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and you're just scrolling in hours, and then you think to yourself, mashallah, look at all this web around me. I have a nice dress. But that's when the spider comes and just stings you right at that point. And then, subhanallah, Allah protect us all, but that's just one of the realities. One is you get sucked inside. The second problem that happens is we begin to see people and we begin to point fingers at them. Never in the history of humankind were we at a point that we are today. In the past, when something bad would happen, it was localized. So I know my neighbor, my workplace, my local community center. Today, I'll get a notification, this is happening in Ukraine, this is happening in Turkey, this is happening in Malaysia, this is happening in India, this is happening in Jordan, this is happening in Egypt. And then in my mind, this picture begins to build that, subhanallah, the world is coming to an end, the world is so evil and wrong, there's no need to do any good. I'm not saying that we're living in a golden era, that everything is good. But instead of getting overwhelmed and feeling as though the last hour and the Day of Judgment is just around the corner, we need to take a moment and ask ourselves some very important question. What am I doing with this information? Is it information overload or is it beneficial information? Because if I spent 6 hours on YouTube and social media, a mixture of lectures, a bit of a refutation, a bit of this conspiracy theory, some trailer about this and a little bit about that and a documentary. And by the end of it, I can't even put a finger on what I've learned. I really wasted time. So what's the hadith that we learned today? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, Inna bayna yaday as-sa'a ayyaman. A day will come where you will see jahala, ignorance, and knowledge will be taken away. How do I benefit from this? Very simple. The way I benefit from this is I become a countercurrent. That if knowledge is being taken away, I educate myself. If ignorance is prevalent, I learn more. Not the opposite. Because subhanAllah, nowadays to get people talk about this theory or that conspiracy or this understanding of the end of times, yes, if you're interested in that stuff and you find it appealing, that's fine. Read it, enjoy it, fine. But don't make a mountain out of a molehill. SubhanAllah, so many times people will come to you and say that, there's this family member of mine, and they went down this rabbit hole and they're not even functioning anymore. They think that the Mahdi and Dajjal is going to come out next month, so now they're not doing anything. They're not working, they're not participating in the family. The purpose of these ahadith is to energize us so that we become better Muslims. So in conclusion, one of the signs of Day of Judgment is that ignorance is going to become very widespread and knowledge is going to be taken away. And my prerogative, my aim and goal should be, how can I remove my ignorance and increase my knowledge? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all beneficial knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not make us among the ignorant, and may He make us among the people of knowledge. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Subhanallahi wa bihamdih. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.